I paid for the wedding, but she hijacked the guest list. When Abigail declared, "It's my day," I delivered a brutal takedown that left her world and our engagement in ruins.
Hey there, I'm Abigail. I spread the guest list across the table, and Mom swooped in like a hawk spotting prey. She circled names on my side without even asking. Aunt Cecilia, Uncle Raymond, all those cousins scattered across different states. Dad leaned back, arms folded, nodding along like this was already settled. It wasn't a discussion. It was a directive. Mom said it would be shameful to leave them out. That word, shameful, it landed heavy because in my family shame sticks. People talk, and not just for a week, but forever. I still hear whispers about my cousin's reception because they skipped inviting some great uncle. That was 10 years ago. People don't forget. So yes, the list had to expand on my side. It wasn't even a question. My family isn't just big, it's respected. Teachers, business owners, old church families. When we fill a hall, it means something. When Dan's people fill a hall, who even notices? Dad said it straight. Dan's friends don't matter as much. He didn't even lower his voice, just laid it down like fact. And the worst part, he was right. What prestige does Dan's old roommate add? Or the uncle who drinks too much at every gathering? These aren't names that elevate the room. They're just bodies. I agreed to handle it quietly, behind Dan's back, basically. Not because I'm sneaky, because I'm smart. Bringing him into it would only drag out arguments, fairness speeches, all his talk about balance. He doesn't get it. He doesn't live with the same microscope I do. If the seating looks lopsided, nobody will point at him. They'll point at me. And honestly, some of his choices, random. Like, I've met these people once at some barbecue, and suddenly they get a prime seat at my wedding. Meanwhile, my actual relatives, people whose names matter, are sitting at home because we ran out of space. No, not happening. I hear brides all the time, whispering in salons or posting online. It's my day. It used to sound cliché to me, but standing there with my parents, it clicked. That's the mantra. That's the shield. This whole thing is about me, not him. People don't line up to admire the groom. They come for the bride, the dress, the family, the photographs. I even thought back to my cousin Emily's wedding. Tiny church, barely decorated. She let her husband's side dominate the list, and the pictures looked sad. Half the pews empty on her family's side, like she couldn't even fill her corner. And people whispered about it. They still do. I will not be Emily. So I crossed out names from Dan's list. Not with guilt, but with focus. His uncle, gone. A couple friends I couldn't even put faces to, gone. One by one, clearing space for the people who deserve to be there. My people. Mom squeezed my hand after and said, "Good girl," like I'd done the right thing. Dad smiled, satisfied, and I felt that rush of approval. Like I wasn't just planning a wedding, I was carrying the family standard. Later, when I packed the draft into my planner, I caught sight of one name I'd cut. Dan's uncle, the one who brags about him constantly. For a second, I thought, maybe he'd notice that one. Maybe it would sting. But then I reminded myself, I'm not here to babysit his feelings. He'll see a full room, he'll hear the applause, he'll stand beside me while everyone admires us. He won't dwell on who's missing. Because truth, a groom never gets judged. Not like the bride does. If the flowers flop, people say the bride was careless. If the hall feels empty, they say her family didn't show. Nobody blames the man. That's the weight I carry. And that's why I get the final say. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel decisive, focused. If Dan wants to play host, fine, let him pay for the catering. But when it comes to who's sitting in those seats, that's my territory. My name, my family, my day. And if he ever pushes back, I'll remind him exactly that.
Hey, this is Dan. The email from Abigail sat in my inbox like any other. Subject line, guest list update. I figured it would be small adjustments, maybe a few RSVPs added. Nothing major. I opened the attachment late that night, just wanting to double check before crashing. The first few names looked normal. My parents, my brother, her sisters. Standard. Then I scrolled further, and the whole appeared. My Uncle Rob. Not there. Aunt Linda. Gone. Cousins I grew up with. The ones who came to every birthday, every backyard barbecue, every time life went sideways. All missing. I leaned in closer, blinking at the screen like maybe I missed a tab. No, they were just cut. Replaced by names I didn't even recognize. Strangers filling in the rows where my family used to be. That was it. The fuse lit. I'm the one covering most of this wedding, venue deposit, caterer, band, photographer. Tens of thousands already sunk into making it happen. And here she was cutting my people out like they didn't matter. I didn't sit around stewing. I grabbed the printout from the desk, walked straight into the living room where she was curled up on the couch scrolling her phone, and dropped it on the coffee table. I told her I saw names missing. She glanced down, casual, like it was no big deal, then gave me the line. Space is tight. Hard choices had to be made. I didn't buy it. I pointed to Rob. Gone. Pointed to Linda. Gone. Pointed to 3 cousins. Gone. She didn't deny it, just said we couldn't invite everyone. She said some sacrifices were necessary. Then I jabbed at the other side of the sheet. Whole clusters of names I'd never heard in my life. I asked who they were. She rattled off explanations without hesitation. One was her dad's old colleague. Another was her mom's cousin's neighbor. Someone else was from their church bake sale. Each explanation sounded thinner than the last. That's when the anger stopped simmering and went full boil. I told her straight, this wasn't about space. This was sabotage. My family and my lifelong friend were being axed so her side could look bigger, grander, more important. She shook her head, kept that calm voice like she was talking someone off a ledge. She said it wasn't personal, just logistics. She repeated that every wedding had to deal with the same issue. I cut her off. Logistics, my ass. If it was really about numbers, we'd trim evenly. Both sides would feel the pain. But my side was bleeding while hers kept fattening up. I reminded her who was paying the majority. I reminded her that everything she wanted, the band, the photographer, the premium menu, I made happen. I said the least I expected was that my uncles and aunts got seats at the damn table. She tried flipping it, told me I was overreacting, making this into a bigger deal than it needed to be. Said I was obsessed with control, that I didn't understand how families worked. That was the gaslight move. Pretend the betrayal wasn't real, that my reaction was the actual problem. I slammed my hand against the coffee table hard enough that the paper slid. I said this wasn't small. This wasn't optional. This was about respect. Respect for me, for my family, for the money I'd put down to make this day possible. She wanted her parents' circle to dominate the guest list? Fine, then let them pay for it, but not on my dime. Her tone stayed cool, almost rehearsed. She said there were always difficult decisions. She said her parents had expectations. She said it was about family pride and that we'd figure something out later. That later was her stall tactic, the one she used when she wanted me to shut up and drop it. I didn't drop it. I told her again this was sabotage, plain and simple. She cut my people out of my own, wedding to feed her parents' ego. That was the truth, and I said it loud enough to leave no doubt. I saw her jaw tighten, but she didn't argue back. Just sat there, phone in hand, eyes low. That silence told me everything. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't oversight. It was deliberate.
He came at me with the numbers like they were handcuffs. 200 seats, he said. 130 of them mine. He held the list like evidence, like I was on trial. I already knew the math, but hearing it in his voice made it sound criminal. I tried to smooth things over. Said we'd review it later, maybe reshuffle. Neutral words. But he wasn't neutral. He demanded 10 names restored. 10. His tone was sharp, like I'd stolen something. I kept folding the napkin on the table into little triangles just to keep my hand steady. What he doesn't get is that my parents have already moved on this. They've called people, hinted at invitations, let it slip to cousins. That isn't just paper, that's momentum. Telling them no now. It wouldn't be logistics, it would be mutiny. And I don't do mutiny with my parents. I can't. I stalled. Promised vague things. Said we'd look at it together, find a solution. He didn't buy it. He said flat out it was sabotage, that I'd gutted his side to puff up mine. That word, sabotage, burned. I told myself he was exaggerating. In my head, it wasn't sabotage, it was curation. Polishing the frame so the photos, the turnout, the impression, so they all looked right. And it's true, I didn't feel guilty. More cornered than guilty. Because the moment I add his 10 names back, that's 10 of mine gone. Which 10 do I call? Which cousin do I uninvite after Mom already lit up talking about the big family showing? The fallout wouldn't land on him. It would land on me. My family's shame would stick to me like a stain. He said money again. Reminded me how much he's paying. I wanted to roll my eyes. Yes, he's covering most of it. But that doesn't mean he understands the cost I'm carrying, the social weight, the way people will judge my family, me, if it looks thin on our side. That's not a bill you see, but it's real. I told him again we'd revisit later. He heard stall tactics. And maybe it was, but it was survival too. My parents have made it clear, this is their moment as much as mine. They want the hall packed with our kin, the photos brimming with our bloodline. Dan talks fairness, but fairness isn't what keeps you safe in my world. Optics do. Inside, I repeated the same phrase, it's my day. Not whisper this time, but louder like armor. Because if I let myself believe his ultimatum, that the guest list had to bend his way or else, I'd lose the one leverage I've got. This is the bride's ground. Always has been. People remember the bride. They barely remember the groom's uncle's name. Still, the panic was there, humming under my skin. He wasn't bluffing. His eyes said he meant it. And for a split second, I wondered what would happen if I called it. If I said, fine, it's my day and my list, take it or leave it. The thrill of that power brushed against me, sharp and tempting. But then I saw Mom's face in my head, the way she'd look if I cracked under pressure. Disappointment like a knife. I can't face that. So instead, I clung to my vague promises, smiled with my lips pressed thin, said later, later, later. Because I'm not giving up those seats. Not for fairness, not for money, not for him. This is my day, and everything else is negotiable.
I knew she was stalling. Every time I brought up the guest list, she went vague. We'll revisit later. I'm still checking with my parents. Empty words. I'd seen enough to know later meant never. So I pulled up the spreadsheet myself one more time. Out of 200 total seats, 130 were hers. Her parents, her cousins, her second cousins, her family's friends. My side had been slashed down to scraps. 10 names cut clean, the people I demanded back still gone. The numbers told the story. This wasn't balance. This wasn't partnership. It was her family show. I laid it in front of her again and said what needed saying. Restore them now. No more stalling. No more promises. 10 names. My people. Back on the list. She bristled. Said it wasn't that simple, that space was tight, that her parents had expectations. Same recycled lines. I told her expectations didn't matter when they erased my family. That's when she snapped. The calm tone vanished. She said the line like she'd been waiting to fire it. It's my day, so I finalized the guest list. That sentence dropped like a hammer. Cold. Final. Not our day. Not our wedding. Hers. Mine didn't exist in her picture. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. I felt something lock inside me. I've been angry before, but this was different. Anger mixed with clarity. That line was the truth laid bare. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a wallet. A sponsor for her family's parade. I stood up and said it plain. If it's your day, then it's her bill. I'm not bankrolling a wedding where my people get tossed like garbage. She started backpedaling, saying I was being dramatic, that she didn't mean it that way. But I wasn't listening anymore. Once the mask slipped, you can't unsee it. I canceled it right there. Engagement, wedding, the whole deal. Done. I told her to call the vendors, because I wasn't sending another check. She froze, staring at me like I'd spoken another language. But I meant every word. And I didn't stop there. I recorded a video right away. Sat in my office, hit record, and laid out the facts. Told it straight. How I'd paid the majority of expenses, how she gutted my side of the guest list to inflate hers, how she and her parents pushed the idea that my family didn't matter as much. That it's my day, so I finalized the guest list dialogue. No theatrics, no shouting. Just facts, point by point. I posted it. Figure maybe a few friends would see it. At least the ones who'd been cut would understand what went down. By morning, it had blown up. Shares piling on. Comments flooding in. People calling it selfish, toxic, unfair. Abigail's family tried to contain it, but you can't put a lid on fire once it spreads. Screenshots of the guest list was shared. People saw the numbers, 130 for her side, scraps for mine. My day, line hit the hardest. That one sentence turned her from bride-to-be into a punchline. I didn't revel in it, but I didn't hide either. I reclaimed the story, made sure nobody painted me as the runaway groom or the cold-hearted fiancé. I told the truth before anyone else could spin it. By the end of that week, the wedding was dead. Canceled in every sense. Vendors refunded what they could, and I cut my losses on the rest. Friends and family rallied around me, made it clear I hadn't lost them. If anything, the fight cemented who was really in my corner. That one line she threw at me, "It's my day," turned out to be the only clarity I needed. I didn't just walk away from the wedding. I walked away from a future built on someone else's pride, someone else's show. And I walked out with my head up, my people still behind me.
The video hit like a storm I didn't see coming. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts, missed calls, notifications piling up so fast the screen froze. Dan's face was there on every share. Him, sitting straight in that chair, speaking calm but sharp, explaining every detail. The bills he covered, the guest list cuts, the way my parents pushed, the way I nodded along. He laid it all bare, and the worst part, he didn't even sound bitter. He sounded reasonable, rational, like he was protecting himself from me. That tone made people believe him, made them nod, made them whisper. At first, my parents tried to shield me, said people gossip, they'll move on. Said Dan was being dramatic. Dad even laughed, said it made him look petty, airing family issues online. But then the comments kept rolling. Coworkers I'd known for years didn't say anything directly, but I felt a shift. A pause in their voices, eyes that lingered just long enough to sting. One even asked softly if it was true, that I'd cut his side to squeeze in mine. I lied on reflex, but her look told me she didn't buy it. The whispers grew. Students' parents at school, neighbors at the grocery store, even relatives who cheered me on suddenly went quiet when I entered the room. Quiet hurts more than shouting. Quiet is how judgment settles. And Dan, he just walked away, held high by his circle. His uncles, his friends, the ones I'd erased, they rallied around him like I'd given them a gift. He looked like the wronged man, the steady one, the one who drew the line. And I was left standing with only my parents gripping my elbows, telling me we'd been right all along. That it was still my day, that people just didn't understand. But what day? There was no wedding anymore. No aisle, no dress, no photographs. Just scraps of a plan scattered in a planner I couldn't even open without feeling sick. I tried repeating the mantra, my day, my day, my day, but it sounded hollow now. Empty, like saying a spell when the magic's already gone. I'd built everything around that phrase, and in the end, all I had was ashes. My parents still sit across from me, trying to spin it. Mom says at least the family knows we stood strong. Dad says reputation in the family circle matters more than internet noise. They talk like generals after a lost war, pretending the retreat was strategy. I nod, because what else can I do? But inside I know. They didn't lose their partner. I did. And the irony burns. I wanted prestige, legacy, respect. I wanted the photos to prove something, that our family was powerful, present, grand. Instead, the photos that live now are screenshots of Dan's video. His words are the captions. His story, not mine, became the one people believed. Sometimes I catch myself thinking he'll call. That maybe he'll calm down and realize weddings are messy, compromises get made, parents push. But then I remember the way his voice sounded in that video. Calm, final, unshakable. That wasn't a man leaving a door open. That was a man locking it. So here I am, left with only my parents and their hollow reassurances. No fiancé, no wedding, no future in the version I'd built. Just whispers, Just humiliation. Just a reputation tied to selfishness. And still, God help me, I catch myself muttering under my breath, it was my day. As if repeating it could make it true. As if a day exists when the man is gone, the vows are gone, the guests are gone. But the words don't land anymore. They echo back at me, empty, mocking. My day. There is no day. Just me, and the ruin I dressed up as entitlement.